So here we are, maybe live, where we're talking Gen Con.
We're probably live.
We're probably live. We're talking Gen Con. We're going to figure out who's going, who's not going. I'm going. Mark's going.
We are hoping to go. We have badges lined up. The Knights would love to be there, but back in the day, we always used to do VIG, very important gamer.
How'd you get that? I can never get it. It would be sold out like in a millisecond.
Because when they first introduced the program, we were from some of the first people to get it, and then they would have you could get grandfathered in. If you had bought it the year before, you got first dibs. And so we kept buying that for years and years until they basically got rid of the program. So
yeah.
Anyways.
Well, that's okay. Doing? That's okay. I got GM / I don't even know what I am anymore. Good. We got you back. We got you back on the show.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks, but I had such a fun time the last two times that I decided to come back. You guys didn't beat me up too badly.
Today we will.
Okay.
What? Today's going to be contentious? Why?
Well, you're going to say, Derek doesn't even know why yet. Oh, okay. It's a surprise, but it's going to be funny.
I don't know why.
Neither does Mark.
It's
a surprise.
Hidden in Steven's mind.
No, like it's not. Things. You're going to see. I set him up for failure.
What?
I feel hoodwinked. And I feel connived.
Yeah, but your audience loves it.
I know, it's usual. It's par for the course for me.
That's right. Yeah,
Steven is just like a trickster. He's just like the stereotypical Loki character.
Oh, right.
He comes in and disrupts stuff, and like sometimes he's helping out and getting back Mjolnir. Sometimes he's causing an apocalypse. You just don't know what he's gonna do.
That's what I do. So do you know what I did the other day? For the first time ever in history, I played a PC in Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Oh, congrats.
And Vanessa GM'd. And I played...
What class did you play for your very, very first...
A druid. I did not build it. Lauren built it for me. She played my Leshy Familiar with a great pick that did 2d10 points of damage at level 1 because she overpowered it.
So you had the great pick?
No, she had the Leshy had the great pick, yes.
So do you mean she played a Leshy character that pretended to be your familiar?
Correct.
But was a separate PC,
yes,
right?
Yes, that's how we did it. And I had pretty cool spells. She gave me, what was this one? It was Guardian Tree or something. It was
really good.
The one that literally grows a tree,
yes.
And then it acts as like a damage absorption shield.
Oh my god, that thing was great.
That's pretty cool.
That was really good, that tree. I had a lot of was it the claw with reach, so I was like clawing things from reach.
The gouging claw.
Not the polymorph, right? That's like a metamorph.
No, it wasn't polymorph. It was a spell, but
it just morphs your hand.
It's a morph. It's not a polymorph.
But the thing is, do you know that claw spell is actually, you have the exact same name for one of the abilities in the Dragon Bookmark? Because I looked it up on PF Easy, and both yours and ours came up, and I was like, oops.
Mark is
Mark's looking at it right now. I see him furiously typing. He's like, crap, did I reuse a name?
Did I write something called gouging claw?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay. There we go. I guess I did write gouging claw.
You did gouging claw, so it's in Pathfinder.
Must be that. Oh no, it's different, Stephen.
Oh really? Why is it different?
It's gouging claws.
Oh,
yeah. I was waiting for the plural.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, well,
you know what? That's an ability that was written already in the dragon.
Right. There you go.
And so I just took it from the monster and put it into the feat.
So Steve and I, not to get us too off topic, but I am curious because as someone who, recently in the last couple months, I played Pathfinder 2 as a PC for the first time myself. And so I am curious what your thoughts are of how the game played. What were some surprises for you on being on the other side of the screen, or some particular sort of takeaways that you took from being a PC?
I loved it. It was so much fun. And I loved it because it was so relaxing. Because not only do I GM, but I GM a podcast, which is semi-live. So the amount of things I have to deal with is insane. And so it was like having Vanessa running it, and she did it in her own program. She did the sound effects. I just had to sit back and play. I was like watching TV. I was surfing the web. I'm like, this is great. I don't have to pay attention at all.
Say that. Actually,
I know.
You can say that. You can say that, Stephen. You're just giving me ammunition for our topic today.
Oh, really?
Ooh, yeah.
Well,
there you go.
nah,
You thought you set Derek up, but he just set you up with that question.
Okay. Well, but the point is, it was great. I mean, it was fascinating. It was a one shot, so it's not like we did super coordination or anything, but
right.
It was fun just to see how the spells work, because one thing I've discussed in the past is that Pathfinder Second Edition is heavily built where the party really has to work together as a team, and it's built into the classes, and it was fun to do that, because usually I'm a party of one when I'm the GM. I mean, not usually, I am a party of one, so I'm always working with myself and coordinating, so this was fun to like work with unknowns. And I'm like, I had so much fun. I'm like, I'm definitely, and I actually would probably play a druid. I'd probably play a shape-shifting druid myself, if I got to choose my own class. So
druid,
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I think we consistently rate druid as a solid A tier class, and we've been really impressed with the primal list in general. It's a very strong,
love primal. Yeah,
it's a very strong list. Access to a lot of high quality S tier spells.
Yeah, I like Primal a lot because there's also not a lot of overlap. Primal's got some weird stuff, and I just like shape-shifting in general, because then you don't get bored, and also you can like do things that. Yeah,
one of my biggest, like, from like, I'm talking about like a deep cut. One of my biggest takeaways is I feel like Pathfinder 2, out of all, like, certainly since 3rd edition, they did polymorph pretty well. Like the battle forms feel very right. Like they're unique, they're powerful, they don't overshadow the martials, but they also don't feel like you're a weak square. So I've been really impressed with all of I have like a druid free archetype in the game I'm playing, and so I have access to the primal list, and I've cast some animal form heightens and some dinosaur forms, and I had a lot of fun with those. So
yeah,
they were really hard. They were not.
They were not
easy to do.
I believe it. Yeah, because it's such a weird thing to balance. Because you're like, how do we like how much temporary hit points do we give so that it's enough that you feel like you have a little bit of extra damage absorption, but not so much that you feel like you are invincible. It's a good balance.
Over the holiday quote break, when Pathfinder 2 final version was coming out, I had to do a pass on the spells chapter because it was just not going to be done. And so like on Christmas, I was just going through spells, and I was trying to like still have a conversation with Linda's family because I had flown over to the East Coast for that.
And that's how we got
know when I was on a polymorph spell.
And that's how we got
okay, I'm
ginger.
on a polymorph spell. I can't talk. It's a polymorph spell. I've got to like go into hardcore polymorph spell mode for a while. They're definitely a lot, but I think we delivered.
Yeah.
Is there any typos? I was hoping we'd find like a gingerbread man, like one of the spells by accident, or like he's like, oh yeah, it randomly goes to Christmas things.
You know what? I wrote a dinosaur fort during that time.
So you wrote the dinosaur fort.
Yes, that's what happened. And that was the typo spell. So there you go.
Oh, I got it. It
was not a typo by accident. It was.
Here we go. Okay. Just add this to the list. Make a note. When we update the dungeon ancestry, Dinosaur Fort is one of the heritages. Okay.
But it actually got published in the Adventure Path.
I know. I saw it. Level 10 spell. Yeah. Or is it ritual? Is it spell or ritual?
No, it's a spell.
Oh, it's a spell.
You just cast it. You get the hungry hippos.
You get 4 T-Rex. Yeah, but at level 10, 4. I saw that.
In each corner, and they can't.
But T-Rexes are not that great. I actually, we just did a big fight with T-Rexes. The regular T-Rex is actually, it's okay if you use it right. They need support. They're like Abrams tanks. Like they're really strong, but if they don't have support, they get killed quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So today we actually have to end on time, more or less, because I got to go. I got a doubleheader mech game to go to, and Derek has something. just as much fun.
That's right. I need to get documents notarized.
Oh my God, that sounds like a lot of fun. That sounds like more fun.
Like more fun than Mets game for sure.
No way.
Well, it depends on how you feel about baseball.
Double header. I can't wait.
That's based on how I feel about baseball.
There you go.
I can't wait to sit there for 7-8 hours watching baseball.
I would be so smashed by the end of that. I wouldn't be able to see the ball.
Oh, really? I don't drink. I just sit there and watch.
Okay.
And
you're a true fan of the game.
Oh, dude,
he's a true believer.
No idea.
True believer.
Love it. Can't wait. And then today we're going to talk about: do you need digital tools to enjoy D&D and Pathfinder? Is it necessary? And there's a lot of precedents and a lot of information on this. First of all, the reason we brought this up is because D&D Beyond was just bought out by Hasbro a week ago for like 146, 148 something million dollars. And first of all, a few things on this subject. One, they were bought out, I think. This is a deal that's been going on for a while. It was made public just last week because of the live stream, because their big D&D announcement. What's it called exactly, Derek? They're doing it, I think, on Thursday. They're doing their
D&D Direct.
Direct, that's it. Where they're going to announce sort of like the direction of D&D. And I think digital tools are going to be a big part of their direction. And it was sort of a no-brainer for them to buy it also because, like, most people thought, wasn't D&D Beyond owned by Hasbro? It's like kind of surprised it wasn't. And most people were probably shocked that this was actually a separate company and just a licensing deal.
Well, actually, wasn't D&D Beyond owned by a separate subsidiary company itself?
Yes. D&D Beyond was bought
by like Fandom.
Right,
Inc.
Fandom, right. Yes.
Yeah.
And it actually went through Fandom, and then they didn't buy Fandom. I think they just bought D&D
Right, that's
Beyond.
what I'm saying. I think they just bought the D&D Beyond brand or whatever, you know.
Yeah, and the code, I'm sure. And the team that runs it, I'm sure.
Because I know that they I want to say that Fandom owns something else that's coming out.
They own a lot of things, actually.
Yeah, they own a lot of things. It's just funny because it's like, it was funny because they were like plugging themselves as being like, from the company that brought you D&D Beyond. Like it was like they were trying to plug it like they brought you D&D, but they were just talking about they brought you D&D Beyond.
It's like we brought you D&D Beyond.
It's a very powerful move. Because I not personally, obviously, but I have seen many posts on Reddit. I have seen many folks talk with folks over the last couple of years who basically say, I wouldn't play the game even if I couldn't play it on D&D Beyond. I have seen, in fact, in the last year or so, when I have seen D&D Adventure League games or campaign games going on at my favorite local gaming stores, I would say that with the exception of maybe one, all of them are actually playing, even though they're playing in person, they're still playing on a tablet or a PC using D&D Beyond. And it sometimes, in a lot of cases, still using digital virtual dice, even though they're at a physical table.
Yes.
And a lot of people basically say the equivalent of, and to be clear, I mean, I'm not casting any stones. I've heard a lot of people say, quote, like, if Archives of Nethys went down or whatever, if I didn't have Path Builder, I wouldn't probably play the game.
I believe it because the number one request when we did our books was they were all like, well, if you're not on Path Builder, then I'm not going to buy it.
Yep.
And that was specifically for the Dragon Ancestry and any new classes or subclasses or that we came out with, archetypes. And we were like, oh, we got on Path Builder. We're actually on Wanderer's Guide. And as of this week, we're on PF2 Easy as well. In fact, the Dragon Ancestry was just added a few days ago. So I work very closely with those people. I make sure that we're on there. And everyone's surprised. First, they're like stunned that we're on there because I'm like, well, I am on there. So what's your excuse now?
Now you gotta shut up. Now you gotta shut up and put your money in.
I know. It's like, now you're going to buy it. And that's the first thing. And the second thing is they're like, how'd you get on there?
Right.
And then everyone wants to be on there. And well, that's tricky. That's a whole other subject of like licensing and stuff. But
yeah, and I mean, I think that's probably one of the first things. I mean, let me start by saying, I think, I think when we talk about D&D or virtual tools, I think we have to kind of talk about two separate things, or maybe they're conflated, right? And the first is like a Pathfinder Nexus, a D&D Beyond, right? A sort of virtual aid, even something like Path Builder, right? Versus a VTT.
Correct. Yeah,
right.
I think two separate things.
I think those are kind of two separate ideas.
Yes.
Because when it comes to something like a VTT, I personally was able to keep playing my games during COVID. I have 150 patron members, actually 160 now, who get together every week. We have people in Australia, New Zealand. We have people in Africa. We have people in Europe. We have people in South America. We have people West Coast, East Coast, and they're all able to play.
You have Antarctica, though.
No, we do not. But we have
do you have outer
all...
space?
Well, no, because Paizo actually had people playing Starfinder in Antarctica.
I remember
some
that.
confirmation from a friend of mine.
And that makes
people in Antarctica.
Yeah, and that makes total sense because, for one, it gives people an ability to play games that may not otherwise be able to play games or play them at the rate that they wish to play them. And more importantly, I think that especially as a fan of smaller press games, right? Like it could be tough, certainly. In the last 10 years to find an RPG game. Maybe it's not as hard to find a D&D 5e game anymore, but if you want to find a game that isn't D&D 5e or even Pathfinder 2nd edition, like if you want to get together and get a game of 7C running, you might be hard pressed to find enough players in your local market. So virtual tabletops, have really transformed what people are able to do with the hobby. So I do think that those are I think they're great in that sense. Now, that being said, Stephen, there's a difference between watching the game on TV and going to the game.
Yes, there is. There is.
And on paper, you're like, I'm still seeing the ball. I'm still seeing the game played, right? And you might even say, oh yeah, but when you're at home watching it on TV, you get to see the pitch track, you get to see the zooms, you get to see the replays, you get to see the different angles. You could argue that watching the game at home is better. Like,
I would argue that, although I also don't like it either way, but I like much more at home.
And strictly scientifically speaking, I think you were correct. But there is a magic, there is a presence, there is a different feeling when you're live and you're there in person. And I understand that that's not something that everybody can do, but I do think it is something that we might be maybe we lose that as we move towards more and more digital tools.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with digital tools, so there's two aspects. So when it comes to digital tools, it is fascinating because this was a long time ago. This was like 10 plus years ago when Pathfinder First Edition was the only one out. And we all used Hero Lab religiously. And I was posting a new game, and I said on this forum that if you want to join the game, you have to use Hero Lab. The reason also is because I was using D20 Pro, and there was a way to import your characters seamlessly from Hero Lab to D20 Pro, and I didn't want to re-enter them. And the other reason is that, and I would argue this constantly on Reddit, is that if you try to put a character in, I know Mark's going to say he could do it, but everyone else on this planet Earth, if they try to build their character by hand in Pathfinder First Edition, did it wrong. And I used to have bets with people. They would always do it wrong. And I got into an argument.
I'll say something different, Stephen.
Okay, well, the point is that there's guy, I got into a big argument. I was like, fine, you make a third level character, any character you want. I don't care. You give it to me. I'll put it in Path Builder and we'll see how many errors there were. And because he was going on and on, he never makes mistakes, blah, 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 blah. He made his character. I put it in. There was 5 mistakes.
Sure.
And, I don't know, maybe he was trolling me. And then it became a thing where everyone was trying to do it, and every character had a mistake. It was always a mistake. Sometimes small, sometimes big, but there was always mistakes. And that was like level 2 or 3.
So my response is going to be something you don't expect, which is they always have mistakes.
Oh,
they
okay.
definitely do. I make mistakes in them. Making pre-generated characters for adventures is something that Paizo for many years misestimated by thinking, oh, it's so easy. And it's no, because you will get grilled for the mistakes, and it takes a lot of time to make sure that there aren't any. So I agree with you. But what I found in Pathfinder Society as a venture lieutenant and 5-star GM who GM'd over 150 games is sometimes the people with Hero Lab actually made the worst mistakes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Because sometimes they didn't actually know what they they were more likely, and it depended on the person. If you had someone who was highly skilled and had Hero Lab, they often had the fewest mistakes.
Sure.
But if you had someone who wasn't, then Hero Lab kind of let them get away with making something that looked like a character.
Okay. Yep.
And had tons of mistakes, and they didn't know how it worked.
Yeah.
So it was something that could be a blessing or a curse, and it's definitely something that I had seen. And it's like there's not it's not bad or good. It's a tool, and the tool is only as effective as like the people who are using it.
Yeah, but I think that's actually, though, I think for me, I think that's the most critical part of it, which is I'll use Magic the Gathering as an example of this. When you play Magic the Gathering in paper with real cards, obviously you need to know what the cards do. You need to know how the rules work and how they interact. And not only does that make it a more involved game, but it also makes you a better player. When people, we've seen a lot of people who've joined the hobby in the last 3 years or 4 and really have only played digitally, have only played online. And then now they're coming back into the stores and they're playing. And maybe they were even pretty good online, but they have no idea how to play the game. They really don't. Like, because everything was taken care of for them. Okay. Right. And, you know, it's like a child with a bike with training wheels. You know, if you never take the training wheels off, they'll never learn how to ride the bike.
Yeah. No, I can see that. That's actually, but that's the difference between knowing the unwritten rules and knowing the etiquette. Especially for Magic, there's a lot of etiquette in Magic that you have to be aware of. And you know, like that's just something you might not learn if you play that way. You know, funny thing, another funny analogy is if you ask kids today, you know, clockwise or counterclockwise, none of them know. You know, they're like, "What's that?" You know, because everything's digital. So it's just part of the culture. But it can also go the other way. Is that were you ever in those live games where people who play only digitally are talking about things that you might not be aware of because they're digital only? You know, so I can't think of an example, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I can say that Derek's comment is not just in theory, in practice.
Oh, it's 100% in practice.
I saw that happen with people,
I've seen it.
And it could lead to issues, especially since in those public games, like very few GMs have the time or like the spoons to go and audit a character or even everyone's character. And so sometimes you would find out like in the middle of the adventure, something's fishy. Right. Then the GM would ask, "Oh, what about that?" And the player's like, "I don't know. Here's this Hero Lab printout.
Right. I don't know.
Figure it out."
Right. It's almost like they almost, you know, disclaim decision, like responsibility, right? They say, "I don't know. This is what it gave me. It told me my bonus is plus 12, and I couldn't, if you paid me, I couldn't tell you how it got there. I don't know how the game works. It just put it together and it's there." And I think that's dangerous because I think it makes people reliant upon that tool. But then to your point about which you started the thing with about being integrated into PF2 Easy and to Path Builder and Wanderer Guide is now you get to a point where you go, you know, to a player, you know, and say, "Oh, that's awesome. Hey, guess what? When you're in this situation, add 1, you know," and they go, "Well, I don't know how to do that. I don't think I can add that in this sheet, this pre-written thing. A Foundry doesn't have a module to support that. That's okay. You know what? I just won't take it. Thanks for that cool little homebrew spur of the moment bonus thing that you threw out at me, but unless it's like a game-defined boon that already exists in the game that I can drag and drop onto my character, I don't know how to handle that. And you know what? If I have to like think about things or remember things, I'd rather just not. I'd rather just all be automatically taken care of on my character. And I think that to me is the real downside. That's the truest downside of a digital character manager, digital character sheet. I think it makes people less likely to sort of homebrew and experiment and try things and just, you know, kit bash.
Yeah, I can see that, especially because we play adventure paths, and if the adventure path isn't in your character builder, then you either have to buy the tool set to add those items or the spells, or you have to go and custom, you know, make it custom. And I also, I don't know, I mean, I build these tools for a living, you know, so to me it's sort of a no-brainer. You know, I could figure out how to do this stuff pretty quick. I never thought of it the way you guys were saying it just now, like, oh, you can build it incorrectly. because it's just not something I think what would happen between
That
my
wouldn't
friends.
happen with you.
You know, it would happen with me, I think, and it doesn't happen with my friends because they're also very technically sound. And I also double check their characters, and we will audit them. Like when I see a plus 12, I'll be like, where'd that come from? And we'll go through it. We'll go through it together and say, okay, here's the plus 3, here's the plus 5, and we'll figure it out. And then sometimes they might have like, oops, I had rage checked off and I wasn't supposed to, so it's actually a plus 10. That happens a lot. Like you accidentally check off buttons you shouldn't be doing. That actually is also an issue, especially with some of them. Like Path Builder with Hero Lab, is that when you print out the sheets, and this is my big concern, it drives me crazy. They don't print out everything that's turned on and off, so you don't know what has been toggled, and that's a big mistake. That's a big no-no for UX. Like you have to have every single thing that is toggled on that sheet, otherwise the pluses will be wrong, or you don't know where things are coming from. And that drives me crazy personally. And that's something why it's like, I like to double check all the sheets.
Well, let me ask you this. So going back to like the real core premises, which is like, do you need these things? Okay. I've seen it levied, and we've got Mark here, right? And we've got, you guys who are now producing this for PF2, and we've got Mark who helped design the system. I have seen people obviously attack Pathfinder 2 for being complex, but I've also seen people say like, it's great, it's amazing, it's wonderful. And then when people say, yeah, but what about the math? They say, well, don't worry, just use Path Builder or just use, Foundry, and it'll take care of it. How does that, like, would you say that your game that you designed is too complex to be played by a human being?
I would not say that,
no.
But I would say that the question is a little bit broad. It's kind of taking a spectrum and turning it into a yes or no. Is like yes or no, is a game too complex to be played by a human being? There's a spectrum of people who can do a certain amount of math or other calculations. And so the question is, can you be played by 70% of gamers? And maybe with tools, you can be played by 99% of gamers. And so then that gives you, I just made up those numbers, right?
Sure.
That gives you those 29%, which is another 1/3 more people who now can play it, who would have just like, if you ask them to add a 27 to a 17, they will take like 30 seconds before they tell you that it's 44.
Right. But I guess I just get to the question of like, do you think that the rise of VTT and digital tool sets, does that open up game designer space? Or like, is it good to have a tabletop RPG that is too complicated for the vast majority of the audience to realistically play at the table, right? Like I'm thinking about like I've seen people play BattleTech, where you hit different locations on the mech, and it requires like hundreds of dice rolls just to resolve like a missile strike. But people play it online, it has macros, and it just rolls everything behind the scenes, and it's just like seamless. And it's like at a certain point, are you just writing code, or are you designing rules?
I think at that point you're basically writing a computer game that has some analog aspects to it.
Right.
I would say that you should not use the existence, or I believe you should not use the existence of VTTs and digital tools as an excuse to make something that is literally too challenging or not intuitive for players to be able to figure out on their own. You still want to make a game that people can figure out on their own and that feels right and it feels easy, so that what feels easy once you've learned the base set to expand. And it feels intuitive to a person where you're like, okay, now I know how modifiers and DCs work. And now if I need to turn undead, it's not like in 3rd edition or 2nd edition where it's like, well, I will never be able to do that unless I turn to this exact table that has a bespoke list of results of which undead I can turn. It's like, no, it's always going to be my roll and I add my modifier and it's against the DC. So
I will say there was
human, understandable, and parallel design.
There was a certain charm to the 2nd edition turning table. No, but I that's why it's so surprising to me to hear people say that you need digital tool sets to really engage with Pathfinder 2, because from my perspective, coming from Pathfinder 1, I'm like, you all did a deliberate job, right? Like I don't know, there used to be holy, unholy, sacred, dodge, natural, profane. Like there was 18 different types of bonus types. Now it's just 3.
And it was unbounded. Like you could make a goo hat that give you a gelatin bonus.
Bonus, right?
And
exactly.
It would stack with everything else.
Just not other gelatin bonuses.
Which there aren't any.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sitting here while you're talking. Okay, so you have first edition D&D, which was it's like so few people have ever played true first edition. It was so insanely complex. There's no indexes. There's like you had to look up everything. It was tables of subtables. You had to look up in multiple locations. It was using unbelievably hard.
Bardici versus your chain Hawbrook, you need to know that I have a +2 versus AC6.
I mean, you get into hours just discussing rule It was so insanely hard. Second edition actually was a milestone for making things pretty streamlined. Everyone makes fun of THAC0, but that actually was the beginning of streamlined gaming. 3 was hard as hell. 3.5 also pretty damn hard. 4th edition was so hard building a character that I was arguing, and I still would die on this hill. It was impossible. It wasn't hard to make a 4th edition character. It was impossible to make a 4th edition character without the online tools.
Well, the problem with 4th edition was
impossible to make a good.
Actually, this is something that got brought up in my. This is
very hard.
Got brought up in my Discord, Stephen.
Yes.
Which is my main problem with 4th edition, and the reason why I haven't gone back to the well is because they released a ton of errata for that game. And it was almost like live updates, right?
It was it was a computer program, and
it was like a GitHub code base.
It was so hard, that game.
I have heard, going back to the thing, do you need digital tools? People have pointed to things like the changes to the Alchemist in PF2E and say, this is why you need digital tools, because you don't know, like someone might make an Alchemist core out of straight of the CRB and be playing this what is essentially illegal class, because that is not what the Alchemist does. And digital tool sets not only allow you to be playing the most up-to-date version, make sure you don't miss errata, but it also gives somewhat of an incentive to the publisher to maybe do more errata, because one of the biggest concerns I have to imagine as a publisher of hardback books is you produce the book and then 2 or 3 months later you come out with a set of errata that essentially makes everybody's book a big paperweight.
Yes, it's a big it's a big problem. In fact, we purposely, so the way we do it, because we just came out with Dragon, so I'll tell you how we do it. Because I do it backwards than everyone else, and this is on purpose. So we came out with the book and the PDF first, and people have been finding small issues here and there, and we've been changing it. We will have
print with the first errata.
We actually have been making the changes.
It's brilliant, actually.
Over the last couple of months. And I will update the PDF. There's going to be version 2 shortly.
Yeah, but
someone asked me today about something, and I was like, "Hey, that's in our first errata already. Yeah. It'll be in your first printing."
And then and I continuously update the book up until the date that they print it, and then I will have it. So it's gone through battle testing for a few months, and obviously some things can slip through, and we can get new erratas, but the hardcover book you will get will actually have all the updated erratas from the first few months.
Yeah, I think everybody should just do that. I think
the problem is timing.
And no one else can do that. I mean,
I understand. No, I get the logistics.
You pretty much have to have a Kickstarter model if you want to do that. If you're Paizo and you have a subscription model instead, then you can't deal with your PDF coming out like 4 months before the printed book release. Well, they have subscription plus like stores and distributors with a large amount, because that'll have unpredictable like effects on your physical books. And when you're Paizo, you can wind up with a warehouse full of product. Whereas when you're Roll for Combat, then you don't make that many more physical products than the ones that were already accounted for in the Kickstarter and the backer kit. So it's at most you're holding on to a small number of things.
There is a downside.
That's important.
People do complain because they're like, "Where's our hardcover? Where's our hardcover?" I'm like, "Well, I'm doing it this is definitely the reverse way that people aren't as much used to, but it does afford us advantages, is that I get it out to you as quickly as possible. And when you do get the hardcover, it should be near final, with very little required updates ever, hopefully. So, there's advantages and disadvantages to every
it's
method.
less that we're delaying the hardcover by much, and more that
we're not
accelerating the
PDF.
The PDF.
Yeah.
As soon as it's ready, we release it.
Capability to send a PDF that was about as much in advance.
Oh yeah,
but
they
then
could
if
do
they
it
wanted
too.
to apply the errata, it would be extremely expensive because you pay like $100 for each page that needs to be adjusted in the book at the printer proof stage.
What? No way, I don't pay any of that.
Oh,
I have the same printer.
You are not adjusting at the printer proof stage.
I'm doing it I do it the printer proof. I get the OL.
Well, then in that case, the fact that you're paying double for the highest quality books must have gotten you into some kind of a deal.
I don't pay anything for that.
Platinum tier, the platinum tier.
No, but you said you're paying twice as much for the book to get the best paper.
Because I get the best. Yes, quality. I'm getting really good quality.
Maybe that comes with the ability to make printer proof changes for cheaper.
I've been making printer proof. Yeah, I do it digitally. And then if there was in fact, there was just I found two very small mistakes on the 5e version of the bestiary, and I sent them new PDF
all I can
pages.
tell you is that at Paizo, we are confident that making a change at the printer proof stage.
They're lying to you. You've been drinking the Kool-Aid. Actually, it's true. I think they used to do that, but now I do know the process in the last year has changed significantly.
Oh, okay, well that's fair.
And
enough,
I think a lot of it had to do with COVID and the way I get digital proofs to China.
Got it.
So I just want to say, STW Lamb had a good point too, which I think it very much resonated with me. Which is, the other thing too is historically in tabletop role playing games, this is definitely true. I can't even imagine how wrong a lot of our PF1 characters were.
Oh,
but we were playing our home game. Nobody cared. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if somebody had a +1 wrong, like it doesn't even matter. Like I used to give people all sorts of like if somebody tried to audit one of my characters, they would have looked at there would have been 27 things on it.
You're right. You're definitely right.
It would have said something like automatically, like one character automatically, every roll they made was automatically a threat. Going back to PF1, was automatically a threat against any rat-like creature because I don't remember. They like desecrated some tomb and killed some rat god, and we were like, you know what? You are the rat slayer, and so now you automatically threat on every attack roll against rats. And so like, what? Show me where that gets audited. It's like it doesn't even exist. We're just making all this up as we go along. It's like Monopoly.
It's like pass go, collect 200. All these rules that don't exist.
Right, and so. Yeah, again, like I think there's a certain element of it where I go, I kind of don't care if people's characters are right. I kind of don't actually.
It doesn't have to be exactly right.
True,
if it's wrong by a huge amount.
Yeah, I mean, if someone, I have a +37 to hit, and we're level 2.
The barbarians, like I did 592 damage, and you look and you're like, no, that was +10, not +300.
All right, so we're gonna do our quick little break thing in a minute, but before that we'll finish up this, then we'll talk VTT. So final analysis, I'll go first. My analysis is that online tools for building and managing your characters, in the old days I used to use Excel. In fact, I still use Excel. I use Sheets now so everyone can see it publicly. I think it's very good, not necessarily to build your character correctly, it definitely helps, but to do inventory management, and that's actually probably the best thing about it, because we play long adventure path campaigns, and I don't know how many times back before we did it this way that you would be level 10, 11, 12, and you like don't remember what you got from a year or two ago. And it could matter. It could sometimes come up where, didn't I have a wand or didn't I have this? And no one remembers. And it's very good for inventory management, more so than even character management, these online tool sets. And it's also good to look up how these weird magics might work online quickly, so that you can click on your character, you can click on your inventory, click on your magic wand, see the spell, see how it works, done. That's what I think the best use of these tools are. Not necessarily policing, but as an organizational methodology.
And I agree with that. I mean, I have Path Builder. I have, I paid the $5 or whatever. I like, people like to mess around with it, build it, show people different builds. I think it's a cool way to just kind of play around. It's a great organizational thing. If you want to plan out your character build or whatever, if that's the type of thing that people enjoy. But I do think that it could be dangerous because people could use that and never actually learn how the game works, because Path Builder tells them, oh, it's time for a skill feat. oh, it's time for a skill increase.
Yep.
Oh, it's time for ability boost. But then if you were to sit down with a piece of paper, you'd go, I actually don't know what a skill increase actually is, or when I can go to expert, or when I can go to master, or when I can go to legendary, because the game just took care of all of that.
Yeah, but you know what? There used to be a time, believe it or not, you used to be able to not use a calculator on the SAT. And now you can. So, things change, man. Remember when you had to use a slide ruler, Mark? Are you that old?
No. Slide rule. You were not using a slide.
I was not, but people had them. People had them. I swear to God.
A slide ruler.
I never learned how, but people did use them. Unfortunately,
yes, people did use them, but
I did have a calculator watch on my. I had a calculator watch, and I was a little Casio. I used to love that thing, man. Oh,
I had my TI-82, and I was happy with it.
Oh, look at that.
TI-83 here.
Oh, no.
Then the TI-89 is actually the best.
Yeah.
You guys use the scientific, was it reverse Polish notation to like put into the code, or how did that work?
I never used reverse Polish.
Oh God, everyone used to do it. I'm like, it's better. I'm like, it's like speaking Latin. It's very hard.
Plus 49, 54. No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So
I was using an
abacus.
abacus.
My end thing, so we can go into the center portion. So I, on the whole, agree with Derek and Steven and some of the people from chat, like Ryan King, who were saying that it's helpful, but it's helpful to use these character building tools, but I don't think it's necessary to use them. However, I want to push back a little bit on inventory management. I've found that online tools are kind of miserable for inventory management compared to everything else. Like, you still got
Whoa, look at that. I gotta see this room. You seem to have everything like within reach. Whenever we say something.
I have a shirt from when I was on like math competitive thing that has like
Mathletes. I was a Mathletes.
Quote TI-89 cipher because of the fact that my go-to was the fact that TI-89 had the ability to do like a large percentage of stuff that people didn't know if you know how to like deal with its programming a lot. But anyway, I think that inventory management is a little bit tricky with online tools. It tends to break, in my experience, if something is wrong with a character. Like if anything is wrong, it's because the inventory management didn't work.
Interesting.
And it'll be like, and I'll notice just with my eye when we're playing on Foundry from imported character sheets from a character builder, and the GM will say, okay, that looks like that hits with a 21 or something like that. And I would be like, in my head, wait, Linda's a 6th level swashbuckler. Why did she not have 24 AC? And then we look, and it's like, oh, the inventory just didn't count the rune, or didn't apply this other thing.
But did you see that in critical part that just happened there, Mark? Right? See, you knew the rules, and so when someone said 21 hit, you knew intuitively that should have been a miss because their AC should have been that higher. But if you had a group of people who doesn't have that intuitive sense, everyone's going to go.
I'm agreeing with you, Derek. I'm saying that I agree with both of you, except when Steven said that one of the best things for it is inventory management, because I found the inventory breaks more than everything else combined.
Interesting.
When it's tried to be automated, because it'll be like, this isn't equipped, or this isn't applied, or it doesn't understand.
I will say,
rings.
I think we're gonna have to break this into two topics, because I think VTT could use its own topic at this point. So, but I will say, what we do now, and I should make this public, is that I do use a sheet, an online sheet, to Google Sheets, and I have all the characters, and I have all the resources. I have like all their healing potions. I have they use.
You are brutal.
Well, we have it all listed, and
you
then we
don't have that healing potion. You
That's
used
right.
it 3 sessions
That's
ago after the Griffin attack.
That's
I remember.
Right. That's right. That's exactly right. And we keep everything very organized. The other thing we use it for is for battle medicine, because we're like, did we use battle medicine the last time we played 3 weeks ago? No one remembers. Well, guess what? I got it right here. We got use battle medicine. Use battle medicine.
That's legitimately very hard to remember when you play over the course of many weeks and just do one encounter. We have one ongoing game like that. And
full disclosure, it's why even though I get it, it's very anti-simulationist and it's very, very, very gamist. I like once per session abilities because that way you don't have to track week to week.
Yeah, well, just playing my game. We're rough, man. We're tough. We're old school. We're like, you don't got it. You can't use
like someone's been playing in Steven's game for like 8 months, and they've only gotten to use battle medicine twice because it's actually only been 2 days.
No. Wait,
someone playing in Derek's game who is like, oh man, we're losing. We're running out of resources. What are we gonna do? Oh, good. There's a role playing encounter. To be or not to be, that is the question. And then they just go on in a soliloquy for 2 hours. So the session ended, all my stuff is back.
So London Matthews says, how many arrows did I shoot? We keep track of arrows in our games. I swear to God we do.
I don't like it. I just bought 1,000 arrows with my archer character in PF1. I showed my purchase of 1,000 cold iron arrows to the GM.
Well, more than once we've run out.
I was like, I bought 1,000.
But you had like a quiver of Alona or something, right?
I had a magic quiver. I was like, I bought 1,000 in my magic quiver. Can we? And I have not tracked them since I bought them. Can we all agree, based on these mathematical projections, that I will never shoot 1,000 arrows?
No.
So that I've overspent. And the answer was yes from every.
Well,
GM.
you know what? I was playing the bad guys. This actually happened pretty recently. 2 things. First of all, we have one of our PCs in the Agents of Edgewatch, Chris Beamer. He has never used battle medicine because he didn't even know he had it. So you talk it 2 years and he's never used it once. And it's right there on the sheet. And we're like, you have it. And the other thing is, we're in a encounter and it was taking so long that same guy, Chris Beamer, he's like, aren't the bad guys out of arrows by now? Because they were doing like 3 around each of them, and I
never have enough arrows.
And I looked and I'm like, "Holy crap! You're right. They ran out like 3 rounds ago."
They didn't have 1,000 though.
Bro, they didn't. They each had like 20, and it was a long encounter. I was like, yeah, you win. You win by attrition, so it goes both ways.
We could go off on a very long tangent.
Okay, anyhow,
I know you wanted to get to.
Yeah,
we're gonna show 2 things. First of all, we're gonna do. Before we do the intro and the preview of the new book, or books, we're going to do our weekly preview of Jewel of the Indigo Isles. And we are doing, Derek is so excited about this. Derek, we're going to talk about the new ancestry that Mark Seifter wrote himself. The Gamayan. Parrot people, I know in your review of Battles of Mastery, you couldn't wait to play a parrot person. So this is your dream come true, where you too can ask all about playing a parrot. Derek's ignoring me completely.
I gotta go. That notary is calling my name. I gotta go.
We'll make it quick. But it is a fun ancestry, and Mark did write it. And there is something about having a new ancestry just written by Mark himself. You have to give him credit for that at least.
A playtester said this about the Gamayan playtest rules. They said the Gamayan is freaking great. The lore is fantastic. The feats are good enough. I had a couple of builds come to mind while reading them. Heritages are all perfect. There's some ideas in there that are so obvious in hindsight. I don't see why it wasn't done for a lot of other ancestries. And there's like 3 times the lore of each ancestry they've shown us so far that there is a Paizo ancestry write-ups.
See?
I will say this. I like them better than Leshies, Poppets, and Shoonies.
Well, you're in luck because we have the author of the Poppy
of the Poppets,
and the Leshy writing our other ancestry. So I'm going to make sure you're on all those too,
the author
Derek.
Of the Poppets wrote Orpak,
right?
Yeah. And the author of the Leshy writing Wildfire, Leshy Heritage, and the Crag Rack.
I'm going to make sure you're on all those, Derek.
And I wrote sprites, so
there you go. We got sprites coming up. We got everything.
I wrote both the original sprites and our sprite Heritage Galtagori.
If it makes you feel any better, Derek, we do have an ancestry coming up.
Okay.
That was based off Klingons.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes, and that's actually a really good ancestry.
Is that the Hardrigan?
Yeah, the Hardrigan. The Hardrigan are warrior race of like 7 foot tall ram people who are literally based on Klingons, and they're
The
awesome.
Hardrigan are really cool. It does have like the one piece of art out of the like 500 that you've ordered that I don't like as much as the others, but they are awesome.
Really? Oh well.
Yeah.
So, what's that? What is that? Tolkien. Yeah, The Hobbit. What about The Hobbit?
Listen, if it's, listen, again, I think there are 2 types, maybe there are 3 types of fantasy, right? There is the basically humanocentric, Game of Thrones has a few, different races, like the giants, but it's for the most part, it's just all humans, right? And then you have like the Tolkien-esque fantasy, right? Elves, dwarves, right? Your halflings, which I like. And then there's like the 3rd type of fantasy, which is like what I call like the Mos Eisley fantasy, right? Where it's very Star Wars, right? Where it's just infinite creatures. And it's not like Star Trek aliens where they're all just basically humanoids, but with like long ears, or humanoids with like a brow ridge. I'm talking about like some weird stuff, right? Like Hutts and Wookiees and weird little creatures.
And parrot people.
And parrot people. And for some people, they like Mos Eisley fantasy, right? Where it's just like this cornucopia of a variety of ancestries with crazy stuff all over the place. And then that floats their boat. That's not my particular brand of fantasy, but I'm happy that people like what they like.
That's why poppets are rare.
Hey, do you know
Right.
though?
Tell that to the member of my Patreon who has a group playing Abomination Vaults, and there are 4 out of 4, and they're all Poppet PCs.
Well,
They
they're
love
rare,
poppets.
but that's why, because the groups that want to do rare ancestries can choose to allow them. So that way, if they were all common and there was no rarity system, Derek, then you would have to be like, if you had people in your group who wanted to play them, you would have to like lay down the law and have an issue with them. But
I lay down the law
rare,
anyways.
then the default assumption is that the person who does play with the 4 poppets has chosen to allow that because that's what the group wanted to do. So rarity helps with the social contract, I think, in that situation, so that you can play whichever one you want to play.
So the history of the Gamian is actually pretty cool, though. The history, it was a monster that won the RPG Superstar. It was actually the first artwork ever made for RPG Superstar, and for whatever reason, everyone just latched onto it, and we decided to make it not only into an ancestry, but it actually is the central ancestry for the Jewel of the Indigo Isles, where the Rumplank is ruled kind of. It's more like a democratic ruling show.
It's called the King and the Queen.
There is a king and a queen, but yeah, it's a bit more. I have to look up the stat block on it, but it is, yeah, there's a monarchy, but it's more like a democratic monarchy, and the most populous ancestry is the Gamian, the parrot people. They're short, they're small, they're like 3 to 4 feet tall, but one thing they do have that's really cool is their eyesight. You want to talk about that real quick, Mark? Their true color eyesight?
So Gamian have true color vision, and the one in the Battle Zoo Bestiary is like obviously way too overpacked for like a basic PC, because usually Bestiary monsters have more like ancestry abilities and fewer class abilities. So the true color sight that you'll wind up with as a Gamian character is let you see colors of the visual spectrum most creatures can't fathom, distinguishing between similar hues with ease, picking up colors beyond red and violet that also allow you to see most air, force, negative, and positive effects, and distinguish which of the 4 types are from each other. In most circumstances, the only such effects you can't see are those that specifically block visibility. For instance, you couldn't see a force effect that specifically provides a creature with telekinetic invisibility. Otherwise, that effect doesn't even work. However, if someone goes out of its way to hide such an effect, you still might not see it depending on your perception check to seek out the hidden effect.
See, I always like that. See, at least you maybe can get behind that, Derek, is that I do like, we always talk about, there's like low light vision and like, dark vision, but no one ever goes the other way, which is like heightened regular vision where you can see force effects, things like that. So I thought that was really cool.
No, that's pretty cool. I mean, that is interesting. I think that's a very cool way to sort of describe it in that respect.
And
not just about the luminosity, but the precision.
And the best feat by far of all the feats in Ancestry can get is the parrot can have a pet parrot. That's right. He can carry around a parrot on his shoulder if he wants.
Do they have some sort of strange kinship with the parrot?
I don't know.
Yes,
Do they?
Familiar.
There you go. There you go. It's a familiar parrot.
Bond a parrot or other tropical bird as your familiar.
So if we ever do a one shot, Derek, I'm going to make sure we give you a Gamayan with a parrot familiar.
See, what this enables me to do is
you add suicide that character quickly.
Yeah, that's right. How do I taste fried?
It's no different than a Tengu.
Listen, I'm happy that people are happy. That's all.
There you go. Anyhow, this is the new Ancestry. If you pre-order Jewel the Indigo Isles, you get this for free. We're actually coming out with, originally it was going to be part of the adventure path, but I separated out to 2 books.
Now it's a separate PDF you can get for free.
Yes, separate PDF, and so all the Ancestries will be in there.
You know, you guys keep giving everything away for free. You guys gonna make money at any time?
Battle Zoo wants to be seen as, I mean, you're like, well, for combat, we want to give value.
Yeah.
So like, it's also, the adventures are much longer.
Oh,
than when they were initially concepted, and like, if you got it in the Kickstarter, I imagine Stephen priced it around what he thought the length was going to be before he found out it was actually longer than that. So like, you get huge amount of value with Battle Zoo and high production values, and you know that for a new company that's starting out, that helps people learn about us. So I think that's okay.
So with that, since we're running low on time, we are coming out with new products. People have been asking what Battle Zoo means. There actually is a meaning behind Battle Zoo. Battle Zoo's been around much longer than Mark has worked with us. I've actually been working on this a long time. I spoke to Mark about this a long time. The next book or books that are coming out, we will discuss what Battle Zoo means, how it integrates, I'll say it again, with the world. We are going to be releasing Battle Zoo Best, Very Strange and Unusual. Everyone knows that. That's going to be part of the new Kickstarter. But there's other things that are going to be part of it, including the book that I keep saying that will be way bigger than everything else. Like, we've done a lot, and people are like, okay, the Dragon book was big. That was a big book. The Adventure Path is big, but the Monster Parts System big. The new ones blows them away. Those are appetizers compared to the new one. And
the Dragon book is even short compared to the new one. I mean, the Adventure Path is long.
Yes, but it's not very complex. Well, actually, it's very complex.
The thing that we're doing with the new book, I think, is the most ambitious in terms of. An Adventure Path has been done before, never quite like this with this much interconnection, but the new one is pretty ambitious.
So anyhow, with that, I will show off the little preview. Enjoy. Ooh. So everyone's probably like, whoa, it's just a 35-second video. Well, don't worry, I'll put it up publicly. There is some Easter eggs in there to explain what we're doing.
It's a very announcement about an announcement, Steven.
Hey man, we got to start off.
Super announcement about an announcement. That's the first thing that I said when he showed it to me. I was like, this is gorgeous. And it's very announcement about an announcement.
It's an announcement about an announcement.
That's what you do now. You make a high-end trailer to announce your upcoming announcement. D&D did it. Now Roll for Combat's doing it, and all the greats do it. So
hey, look, it's a reason why it works. And
look at what Scarab said about it.
I know. I just saw that. So see, I need people like this. I need to get scared. I need to get people like Scarab with her. You show them a 15-second trailer, and they go
35 seconds.
I'm sorry, 35 seconds.
It was over twice as many seconds.
We do everything twice as long here.
They go, I know nothing about it. I've seen 3 moving images. I'm in. Sign me up. Top tier package. Let's go.
That's what happens when things start expanding and you're just like, all right, we'll give it to you. Here's free PDFs. Here's other stuff. People learn to trust you for combat to give them a good deal and to give them good.
This is just Mark flexing on me. He's like,
I don't know.
He goes, when you're the top dog, when you're the king, this is what people do. You bow to the king.
It's that. I think it's just like, but that's what Brendan Sanderson said about his Kickstarter, where he literally didn't tell anybody what anything was. Is that if you are trusted to deliver something good, and then people will be more likely to sign up for things later on.
Oh, I mean, absolutely, right? Yeah, like you can make a lot of money. What's the word? I can't remember the exact phrase, but basically, it's like you can get some money from people once, but if you give them great value, you'll get it from them again and again and again.
Of course,
they'll trust you and become a true fan, a true believer, and that's always a better long term. It's better for you as a company in theory, but it's also definitely better for the consumer and everything like that. So
yeah, actually, it actually comes from a consumer point of view. I wanted to say more, but we don't have quite enough yet to show more. So it was either I wait a few more weeks until we have more to show, or I do something now. So I figured I'd rather do something now.
It's going to get people talking. I mean, so far everyone's really been loving the stuff that you guys have been putting out. So I think it's interesting. And, if Scarabart says, can we get a Derek ancestry?
That's part of it. That's actually part of the Kickstarter.
We can get a Derek ancestry, but we're not allowed to convert it to 5e. So.
That's right.
I thought it actually was the other way around. I thought it was a 5e ancestry. We have to convert it to 5e. Oh boy, that made it mad.
I come on this just to get beat up. That's what happens.
Yeah, but everyone loves it.
Oh, including me. I'm a sucker for the torment. No, it's good. It's fun stuff, and it's exciting to see people exploring the space and developing stuff. And obviously, I am not as privy to the details, but nope. Starting with things like a bestiary and its ancestries, and but then pushing it with the dragons is obviously kind of a unique spin on that. Those are good, solid, foundational elements, right? That, quite frankly, people will pay for that no matter who you are, right? But now that you've established yourself as sort of an industry leader, then this gives you the freedom to say, okay, all right, we've got a bunch of Scarabarts out there, like we can go and we can really try to do something that pushes the envelope a little bit. And that's the kind of things that I want to see. I want to see interesting and new ways that people are going to develop and expand the game and the product. So.
Yeah. I mean,
we somehow came up with a Scarabard during this process. So.
And we actually do a Scarabard in somewhere in there.
I'm not talking
somewhere in there. Somewhere in there, there's art. But I will say that that's actually one of the main reasons that I hired Mark, and probably one of the main reasons why he left Paizo, is because we are doing very complex and unique things here that are pushing the boundary. Like a lot of people, I see people, it's like, oh, a new adventure path, that's fine. Or like a new, monster book, that's fine. But we're trying to push it past that. We're trying to evolve things to a new level. And and you need someone like Mark to do that. Like you can't do that with just,
Well, you need someone like Mark to do it well. You can do it. It's just won't.
Fair enough.
People can do it, but when you do, and I've seen people doing it, and it's like, this is good, but usually what I see is this is good, but it's kind of overly complex when you're pushing the limits.
Correct.
But if you have someone who was there making the system, you can do it and you can push the limits and be elegant, and that's what's more difficult to do.
That is incredibly. Mark and I have seen many other systems that are very very cool and woefully over-engineered.
that is the thing, like it's easy to add complexity, right?
Yes.
It's hard to make it elegant,
yes,
right? And I know that in my own personal journey through role-playing game space and systems that I've tweaked and homebrews that I've created, it's easy to add complexity, right? It's hard to kind of almost take it away without losing what it is that you were getting, right? And I always talk about in my streams, right? Like, you want a game to be just as complicated as it needs to be and not anything more, right? Because at that point you're just adding unnecessary overhead to do the thing that you need or want the game to do.
Designers talk about complexity and depth as like an X and Y axis, where depth is good. It gives more choices. It lets you do more things. Complexity is bad. It makes the game harder to get into. Depth is sort of, you could call it good complexity. Sure. And you want to buy as much depth as you can by using as little complexity as possible. Right. But it's an optimization problem. And 5e's optimization problem was how much complexity we can take away. We'll try to keep what depth we can, but we need the complexity down. Correct. And PF2's optimization problem was we want the maximum depth that we can have while limiting the complexity. And I think both systems succeeded at doing what they set out to do, but it was different things.
Correct. That's a great, I like that. I've certainly never spoke about it exactly in those terms, but those are the perfect terms. And to your point, right? That's a continuous function, right? It's not linear. Yes. And there's probably a point of diminishing returns for sure in any of those equations. But there are people who are willing to pay that complexity price, even if it is diminishing, for just that little bit more of depth because they need it. And so I think that that's definitely an area where, if we can expand certain areas of the depth, even if it means introducing a little bit more complexity or a little bit more, elements to the game, I think that's fine.
So I'll say a few quick things. First of all, if you are interested, sign up for a newsletter. That's probably the easiest way. If you just go to rollforcombat.com and wait like a second or two, a pop-up will appear. And the newsletter comes out every week. By the way, we're doing some cool things. Like, it's not like, a lot of these newsletters, again, we are adding value. Like, a lot of these newsletters are just trying to sell you. Like, we have in like this week's newsletter, we had, information about you, Derek, that you're going to be on the show. We had some lore about the history of Alucard and the religious system in the world. We have building a monster where everyone is building a,
level 15 tentacled aberration T-Rex.
Yes, and that's voted on by every week. We have people vote on a different aspect of it until it's built.
So we first voted on the T-Rex, and then we voted on it to be level 15, and now we're gonna find out, where does it come from? Is it from another plane? Is it from outer space? Was it like a parasite or symbiote that attached to a T-Rex? Like, what's the deal?
Yeah, and then we're actually then going to finish it up and put it in the next book.
We've already created one using the newsletters before. It was called the Cranklejack, and it is a construct built by nymphs to guard nature's quiet places and then corrupted by gremlins into a chaotic mess that doesn't even know what strikes it's going to make because they just sort of come out. Yeah,
so we again, we try to give a mixture of information as well as something fun to do, as well as GM tips, tricks.
Interesting. So far, the origin for the tentacled aberration T-Rex is very strongly in favor of one of the options, but I won't say which one.
Yeah, don't say which one. And then even the level, like we had everyone vote. What I couldn't believe is a lot of people voted for level 25, and I was like, whoa.
There's always a decent number of people who pick the high levels, but it's never as much as some of the
we did this one. This one's level 15, which I think is okay. I would have vetoed it if I thought it was too much, but I don't
like high level monsters.
I actually, I've been playing high level Pathfinder. It's great, man. It's a lot of fun.
It works, but it's level really 25 fun. Is still not a useful
level
monster
25
is 15. 15 can be your boss at level 12 or 13. It can be a horde of them that you fight.
Yeah, we can make lower level versions.
All you need is 6 PCs that are level 20, and then it's like an extreme. It's easy. It's easy.
Well, I think 25s are more of the coffee table book feel, which, don't get me wrong, there are some players who want the coffee table book of super high level things as just like a fun thing to read.
Correct.
But for usability,
Correct.
You
right. I agree. For me, usability is always is forefront of my mind. But the coffee table approach is another, and that's a customer segment that Mark is completely correct about, but I am not thinking about. So
sure.
But the so if you go there, you sign up for the newsletter, and that's the easiest way. Obviously, if you go to Discord channel, just go to discord.rollforcombat.com and you can sign up. But the Kickstarter is expected to start this summer. We're figuring out the exact date because there's a lot.
Is our announcement going to be at PaizoCon?
I don't know, actually. I gotta
somewhere around there.
Yeah, around then we'll give the public announcement of exactly what it is, and we'll give a lot more details, including.
Are we going to give another teaser before then?
Probably.
Nice.
Probably at least one or two more, and we'll have Derek on all of them.
Tuesdays are usually a good day for me. I have meetings in the morning, but my afternoons are usually pretty free.
Free. And then, but yeah, we've been working on this for a while. This new one, and we have other people on the team for this. But I think you'll like it. Derek. I think you'll be surprised.
I don't know. Based on what he told us today that he doesn't like,
he'll like it. He'll like it.
Okay,
he will. I'll tell you why. Oh, we lost him.
Then there are a lot of people who will innately love it because they'll go, "Oh, Derek doesn't like it. That must mean that it's something that I really like." Right. And then the second thing is, if I do love it, well, what a earth-shattering thing that is.
Well, then people will hate it. What's your favorite monster? This will tell a lot about yourself.
What is my favorite monster
in general, or one of your favorite monsters for anything? Pathfinder, Dungeons, Dragons, anything.
The Goth, the Lesser Beholder, the Goth from third edition, basically.
Really?
Yep. It's probably one of my favorites.
Why?
Because it has a cool array of spell abilities that aren't completely difficult and a pain in the ass to run like a standard beholder, right? Like it didn't have all the save or die spells and didn't have the anti-magic cone that made it a very pain in the ass to run. It had like a stun gaze, and its effects were more like damage or weakness, like Raven Feeblements and stuff like that. And it was just a cool capstone, weird, aberrant monster that I always TPK'd my parties with them.
Wow.
So I have a lot.
I'm sure they were in second edition too.
Oh, were they? Okay.
Because I know they're in Baldur's Gate, which must have meant that they were in second edition. I think they were maybe in I Tyrant.
Right. Tyrant. So I do like that type of monster, but traditionally my favorite monsters are undead, giants, dragons. Like those are my top three categories of monsters that I really, really like.
An undead giant dragon.
Yes,
I was thinking about that too, because your first two sounded like adjectives.
I know.
Yes, creature types. But yeah, I just like, I like those monsters. They're foes that okay, it's fairly straightforward. A lot of times they're easy to run. Undead are just inherently scary, and they make great villains. And of course, dragons are in the name of the game. And who doesn't have a love affair with dragons, right? Obviously, you guys do. So,
don't have to tell me dragons.
That's right. Man, Mark is like Mr. Dragon. That's his new nickname, Sir Dragon.
Ironically, I actually like Fae even more than dragons, but dragons were just the most appropriate possible thing for this kind of book, and I really like them too.
I like dungeons.
Fae and plants might be near the bottom of my list, Mark. So
plants. Plants are
you don't like Fae, but Fae just like undead, Fae have like all these creepy stories about them. They have this like otherworldly way of thinking of things that there is an element to the Fae that done correctly where I think it could be done very well. And I do think it, but they are more subtle and more complex and nuanced type of foe, regardless of whether they are quote unquote evil or not. But they are certainly something that I can appreciate when it's done right. But a lot of times it's not done right, and then I don't like it. So
I will tell you then, Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and this is fact, that the most deadly creatures by far are plants. Plants are number one. They destroy my PCs.
Well, I do know that in Fall of Plaguestone, there's that
Correct.
stupid plant that is like known
Correct.
outside the wolf den.
Correct.
That is known for just wiping out parties.
Yes. Oh, that's actually where it started, because the very first thing we ran was the Fall of Plaguestone. And there's a lot. First of all, that is an incredibly hard adventure.
Yeah,
Really hard.
It's really hard.
By Jason
And there's
Bowman.
a
You know it's gonna
lot
be
of
hard.
plants in that. And let me tell you, we have a constant running joke in our podcast that people are now deadly afraid of salad because of
Look,
that damn.
I've never played or run an adventure written by Jason that was not like among the most difficult of any of its peer group. That includes in Pathfinder Society.
Yeah, it is amazing. Plants. Well, I'll tell you why. Because the thing is, when you see a monster, you can usually figure out what it's going to do. When you see a plant, even in your mind's eye, you're like, how bad could it be?
So let me tell you my number one gripe.
It's bad.
I know we got to wrap up. I know you got to go
yeah.
So let me tell you my number one gripe about plants in RPGs, like since 3rd edition. This is actually true for a lot of things, but plants is especially true. My number one gripe about plants is how many of them have frickin' fire resistance. It infuriates me.
Have you ever tried to burn?
Have you ever tried to burn anything?
Yes.
Have you ever tried to burn anything?
Yes,
Okay.
green wood's very hard to burn.
Green
it does
wood,
not burn.
Green wood isn't harder to burn than anything else. Right? Like if green wood is hard to burn, then so should people. If plants have resistance,
people are much easier to burn than green wood. I'll tell you that right now. I have spent a good year of my life campfire.
I've started fires with green wood. I've never started fires with people. So I'm gonna have to take your word for that, Stephen.
Stephen knows he started fires with people.
Yes,
but
you heard it here.
So other than shamblers, which are based on shambling mounds and had their resistance reduced, what other plants, and they've always traditionally had heavy fire resistance in D&D. What other plants have fire resistance? Like Hendriculus is weakness.
I believe the assassin vine.
Treant is weakness.
They give the barky creatures weakness, but like assassin vine has
green plant.
Assassin vine has weakness.
Okay.
Yeah, see?
All right.
Now, Derek, you would have been right in Pathfinder First Edition. There were just all these resistances and immunities out there.
Okay. My hatred is long developed, right? Like I'm not specifically hating PF2, and I wouldn't know this as much about PF2 because my innate hatred for plants means that I don't.
No, you didn't play them, so you didn't know that.
The other thing is too, is plants are more of even if it is a fight, it's more of an obstacle than a combat, and I think that can change some of like the tension in the fight. So
plants are great. That's what I'm going to play. I'm going to play a plant. I'm going to play a plant, Poppy, Leshy, Gamayan, just for Derek.
There's a lot of talk about how much money it would take for me to run a game on my stream where everybody was like poppets and leshies and wielding gnomish flick maces and everything else. Actually, that's the only thing, by the way, in my Patreon's community game. The only thing that is banned is
the flick mace.
All uncommon everything uncommon ancestry is banned, and the 2 uncommon classes are banned. They could be unlocked through play, but the only thing that you could get technically through the game that is completely banned is the gnomish flick mace. So.
Fair enough.
Flick mace.
Well, Derek hates leshies that much. He might be like the anti-Linda.
Oh.
We might get along fabulously. Opposite.
I don't know. Your last name is Malinda. Melinda.
That's right.
Like evil
that's right.
Linda.
Evil Linda. Wow. Damn. That's why we have him on this stream, because he's the opposite of Mark in every way. Make sure you have Linda on the stream. We should put Linda on this stream.
Often when we had a discussion, other than that one time I was moderating, Derek has said something. I was like, I agree with Derek, or Derek had my point that I was going to say there. So I feel like we agree a lot.
Except when it comes to Leshy.
You can't ever put me in a corner.
You can't put baby in a corner.
You can't put baby Derek in a corner. But I do have to run. I have to run.
Yes, I have to run too.
Bye everybody.
But
thanks for watching the stream.
Thanks for watching the stream. We'll be back next week. You know what? Nonat1 should be on the stream. Maybe I can get
nice.
Nonat and Derek on the stream.
No, I'm actually going to be in the Caribbean on a cruise next week. So,
okay.
yeah. So
well,
maybe
see, we can never work that out. But that would be the stream of me and Mark just go take a nap.
We'll see what happens.
You know what? I've spoken with a lot of content creators in the PF2 space, but I've actually never had a one-on-one with Nonat. So it'd be interesting to see.
I know. I think the four of us would never shut up. It would be like a 10-hour stream.
Right, exactly. That's true.
On one subject.
I'll have to clear my calendar. But I will be live again tonight. My stream, 7 p.m. Eastern, if you're interested. And I know, Mark, I think you're going.
I'm 7 p.m. Pacific. So there's.
Wow.
So there you go.
Look
So you
at
can
that.
watch my stream, and then when I'm wrapped around like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, you can just hop right into Mark's. So
Derek, your streams are long too, man.
I do. We do. You know, actually, we just recorded a podcast this weekend. I think we did over 4 hours just for the podcast. So,
wow.
Well, you know, you get me talking about gaming and I can't stop. See, I got to go. So,
Gotta go. All right.
Go have fun with your notary and the Mets game.
I got to go to the game. See you later.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.